Afternoon to everyone. Uh, this is a special occasion, of course, with every program that has taken a number of months, I would say probably years, because starting programs in focusing on the word development studies or development practice have been in the pipeline for very long. And I'm first of all very grateful to the Vice Chancellor, Mr. Rajkumar, for giving a space for ideas to exist in the university. It is very rare for any institution across the world, as much as most of us would already know, to have an exclusive institution to promote, incubate, encourage interdisciplinary thought and its practice, which is very much needed. I mean, one of the things that led to us thinking about a program on development was the very fact of how the word development has been used, misused in context to doing everything that needs to be done. The word development often invokes very different emotions amongst different people. Those who are at the receiving end of what would be seen as a displacement caused by construction of a dam or a construction of a particular project, you would see their experience of the word development seen in a very different light, as against if you were to ask a representative of the government, the focus on the word development would be in terms of overarching enhancement of human capabilities or access to basic resources. For consultants, the word development means something very different. States or societies experiencing a lag or a lack of access, how to get them to a point which enables access to those resources. So every stakeholder has a different, I think, genealogy or the term development. And one of the things that was very instrumental to us was starting a new program at Ideas and at OP Jindal Global University was to think in terms of a program which would have, by its own very nature, an interdisciplinary orientation. And the program in development practice, development studies, would be one of those measures and ways over a period of time for us to do. I want to first of all thank our panelists, our keynote speaker, for taking the time out and coming on what would be a very busy weekday afternoon, and also in amidst a very festive season. It's not easy for us to take the time out for attending occasions like these. At the same time, I want to thank all our faculty members who have put an enormous amount of work in making this event possible. Our executive team, Ms. Nasima, Mr. Saqib, Mr. Nirmal, the supporting staff here at the Taj facility. As you all know, this is not a traditional university setup. We are running a program in a non-residential capacity out of Delhi, and a lot of times logistics are their own beast, in organizing something. So thank you. I want to just very quickly, before we give the floor to our keynote speaker, Mr. Sinha, who I look forward to hearing out, Dr. Kazi, Professor Heba, who has been a dear colleague, and there's a lot of insights we exchanged from her own research and work, and Dr. Roy. I wanted to mention a little bit about the context in which a lot of the thinking went behind situating both programs, development practice and development studies, as a starting point of our engagement with interdisciplinarity in terms of teaching. Our research has been, by very own nature, the identity of Ideas has been focused as a research institution within the university. It still focuses a lot its work on encouraging faculty members across schools to come together, collaborate, and work together on ideas that would be of integral interest to not just their scholarship, but also the kind of pressing questions that we face in terms of the existential challenges we have. One, I think, significant crisis that we face at this point of time is a crisis that I have previously defined as a crisis of, one could say, the word solidarity or fraternity, which is also amongst I can speak of our own vocation, that's the intellectual class. Somewhere we were talking about before the interaction about the essence of collaborative practice, community engagement. It's not just, I think, the government which has struggled to generate a lot of trust at different intervals as a representative of the will of the society. I think generally intellectual community has had that problem too, and social scientists, the way they have in other science, many cases, practice, nurture the discipline, the teaching of the discipline. Private institutions, I would say, because of the sort of elitist construct of its own design, sometimes are, I think, perpetrators of that even more. But I think it's a larger crisis which goes beyond the binaries of private, public. Somewhere I think the disciplinary orientation itself has a lot of focus around getting narrowed down in your own respective fields, developing an agency or a voice in what would be essential. As much of that disciplinary orientation is critical, I think what happens is sometimes we fail to take a more abstract, reflective view at things. And the idea of looking at multiple voices or incubating a polyvocal view at or in our research or taking a more reflexive position is lacking. And I think that, I feel, is a big crisis that social science today faces. It's becoming, as I speak, and I'm very confident that it is a shared sentiment amongst many intellectual scholars, not just in India but outside as well, is on the nature of irrelevance that the intellectual community at large is facing. And one very good example is that if an average professor would go into the field and go and try to conduct a field survey to collect data on respective questions that they might have, it is no longer a very easy process to do. How much of time that you would take in developing trust because of a lack of trust or in absence of a community engagement amongst a lot of intellectual scholars, I think this has voided. The objective here is that we were very critical about, when we were recruiting for this program, scholars who have had tremendous amount of exposure in engaging with fieldwork, have a sense of empathy in terms of the scholarship, the work that they do, but also have this faith in solidarity amongst themselves and with the community that they seek to engage. It's only the teachers who can make the students more sensitive to those questions. It's not for me or anyone else to say. So keeping that in mind, the word which I said, which has been, I mean, it has seen as an antiseptic concern of, and Professor Viswanathan makes a set of valid points by seeing himself as anti-development, talking about development in the light of what it means for different people. I would urge us to, as those who are interested in doing the program or thinking about spreading the word in this, in identifying us as those who are the critique of development studies scholars. We're not here to preach a particular single voice or engage in a single dimension of a particular research method or engage in a given gender. The intersectionality has to come from within in terms of our thought process. And I think one of that process requires us also a holistic vision. Our ability to look at beyond identity-based markers sometimes is very critical in the way we make sure what we want to do is actually nurtured and inhabited. As teachers, it's important, and as students, I feel it's a commitment. The development practice cohort, which is already present here, has been already being given that much of orientation. I hope and I'm positive, even though conducting a program online will have its own set of what we would say immersive challenges, but we have a immersion program as part of the degree plan where students would be coming on campus and spending around a couple of weeks in doing trainings and workshops. With that, I'd like to call Mr. Sinha and for his keynote address. If we could have,
yeah, sir.
So I must say that as Sir comes in and addresses, when we were thinking about the program launch, one of the feedback that came, and our colleague Dr. Shamandra Roy was very excited when Mr. Sinha accepted the invite. And I'll be very honest, I started looking up the kind of work that Sinha has been doing. As like much of our panelists, he comes from multiple spectrums of engagements with the government, outside the loop, working with researchers. But what we genuinely hope is your engagement to be not a isolated incident of us addressing us at the level of launching this program, but a sustained engagement which brings us to collaborate with the center and also to collaborate with you, sir, over time. So